If you're enjoying this podcast from us here at Which, then why not become a Which member? Right now, we've got a special offer, especially for podcast listeners, meaning you can choose any of our 3 membership tiers for 50% off the usual price. Starting at just £39.50 for a full year, you can get Which magazine delivered direct to your door. For the same price, you could also choose a digital Which subscription, giving you access to all of our product reviews, the Which app, and the digital edition of Which magazine. What's more, you'll also be able to use the Ask Which service for personalised one-to-one buying advice. Or why not get a full access Which subscription for just £49.50 for a full year? Don't forget, that's 50% off the usual price. To join Which or to find out more, just head to which.co.uk/podcast offer. That's which.co.uk/podcast offer, or click the link in the description for today's podcast for 50% off a Which annual subscription.
When is a shop not a shop? Whether you're picking up a neighbour's sofa off Facebook, bidding on antiques on eBay, or ordering a personalised cereal bowl from Etsy, you and millions of others are actually using an online marketplace. A brilliant way to connect buyers and sellers, but a recent Which investigation has found they're also a hotbed of dangerous products. So what can you do to ensure what you're buying is safe? I'm Harry Kind.
And I'm Grace Farrell.
And this is Get Answers for living your best consumer life.
When life gives you questions, Which? Get Answers.
Have you ever had any marketplace disasters, Harry?
Disasters. So I bid on this, what I thought was an antique children's ride-on horse on wheels. I thought it's kind of cool, kind of kitsch, give it to one of my friend's kids. So I go with a massive IKEA bag to pick this thing up from nearby. I walk about an hour or something, and I get there expecting to be lugging this big, heavy object back. And the guy sees me, opens his kitchen window and hands me a tiny horse. Didn't even come up to my knee, which was clearly meant for a doll and had just been a reproduction the whole time. And now the cursed horse sits in our house watching our every move. So thank you, eBay. Always check what you're going to buy and the dimensions before you buy it.
Had you just not looked at the dimensions, or had they put the dimensions wrong?
Weren't listed, and the picture was by, I think, an equally small wood-burning stove. And so for scale, it did look like a good size, but it was just pointlessly small. Are you a Facebook marketer?
I'm so wary of online marketplaces just through all the work that Which has done, everything I've been involved with. I tend to steer clear of them, to be honest. So no, luckily nothing's coming to mind, but you are in good company because we've had people get in touch with us on social media with their own stories. So Katie said that she bought her daughter a sensory squeezy ball. It popped and the liquid inside was acrid and made her eyes water. Do you know, that makes me think about the episode we did recently about online marketplaces again, but specifically to do with child safety, when we were talking about all the awful things that Which has uncovered on online marketplaces like slime and water beads. It really is, a hotbed of bad stuff.
Not something that you'd think would necessarily be a danger, but it goes to show that if it's built badly, anything can be. Plenty of you told us that you ordered something and then the wrong item turned up. Mary said she ordered a swimsuit and got a pair of slippers. Hazel said she once ordered some foot cream from a well-known selling site, but when the package arrived, it contained shampoo, which I hope is not a comment on how hairy her feet are. Luckily, it's not always bad. Maria said that she's been lucky and everything she's bought so far has been very good.
It is luck of the draw, I think, really, isn't it? But, you know, that isn't great when you're shopping.
Makes it more exciting.
Let's welcome our Which researcher, Clare Webb, to the show. Hello, Clare.
Hello.
Now, you have gone to rather incredible lengths, I would say, here to expose very bad practice on some of the most common marketplaces we shop at. Can you tell us about it?
Yeah, so in the past, Which has done lots of investigations where we've bought products from several online marketplaces and we've tested them in our labs and we've found them to be unsafe. And what we do is we report these particular products to the platforms. They tell us that safety is their priority. They take down the listings for those items. And then we soon see similar or identical looking models reappear on either that marketplace or another one. And it feels a bit like a game of whack-a-mole. So this time around, we decided to do something a little bit different and to see how easy it is to register as a seller on some of these marketplaces and list a dangerous item. So that's what we did.
So you went kind of undercover as a seller to sell a dangerous item. What was the item?
We decided to sell an electric heater that was recalled back in 2022, so a long time ago. And this particular heater, as well as being recalled, is one that we've since spotted on several marketplaces. Again, we've tested it. We've found that it's unsafe, so it might cause risk of fire, electric shock, even explosion. And we reported it to several platforms, including 3 of the platforms that I listed it on for my investigation.
And what happened then?
Well, nothing. It was very easy to list the heater. The platforms didn't spot it. It was for sale. After it had been on sale for a month on 3 of the platforms, TikTok, Etsy and eBay, we decided to make it a little bit easier for them to spot. So we edited our listing to include some of the details from the Office for Product and Safety Standards recall notice. So, for example, we changed the item names to exactly match their description. We included the barcode and we included all the risks that are detailed so that it poses a serious risk of electric shock.
So in the description of the heater on the online marketplaces on the listing, you wrote that it was dangerous, basically.
That's right, yeah. And still nothing happened. Our heaters carried on being for sale on these platforms. So we reported the item from another user's account. And at that point, eBay and Etsy took it down and they acted pretty swiftly to remove the listing. TikTok did nothing, so it stayed for sale on there. The only platform that managed to identify the heater and remove the listing without us reporting it was Amazon. And they did that, but it still took them 2 weeks.
So we really weren't being subtle with this, right? You know, this was a heater that was listed at almost £100 to stop people from being able to buy it. We included all of the language. No human being would look at this and go, I wouldn't buy this heater. So it really was an easy win for the marketplaces to be able to spot this themselves before any kind of reporting took place, which is what, you know, they claim to be constantly doing, is this kind of proactive pruning of dodgy products. What do you think about that? Like, they clearly aren't even doing the easy stuff.
Yeah, I was surprised at how easy it was to list this product. And I was even more surprised that it was only Amazon that managed to identify it. And even Amazon, it took them 2 weeks. But what was also a big surprise was that even after we reported it and they removed the item, we managed to relist it from the same seller account just as easily.
The same seller account with the same product.
Yeah, so exactly the same dangerous product, which they'd removed because it was dangerous. From the same seller account, I relisted it about a week later. And again, that remained on sale. Amazon did take it down. It took them a week this time to take it down. eBay took it down after 2 weeks. Etsy didn't take it down at all until we approached them with our findings.
This is crazy to me because I thought Etsy was a marketplace for vintage, kind of handcrafted goods. I didn't even know you could buy heaters on Etsy.
According to its policies, you're only supposed to sell handmade products, vintage goods or craft supplies on Etsy. So I didn't think I'd managed to list it at all. But I mean, you only have to do a quick search on Etsy to find lots of things that are clearly none of those. You can find toothbrushes, heated clothes airers, washing up bowls, and heaters. So yeah, as it turned out, it was very easy to list it on Etsy and there was no comeuppance at all.
So can you talk to us in more detail about TikTok specifically? Because this seems like the most gobsmacking to me.
Yeah, so TikTok's obviously a hugely popular social media platform now, and they have a shop built into the platform, so it's very easy to buy things on TikTok. And as I said, it was very easy to list my product. Even after we reported it from another user's account, it stayed on sale. And it ended up being on sale for nearly 3 months until we contacted TikTok as Which to tell them what we'd done. And it was only then that it got taken down. TikTok says that electrical products are restricted products. So that means that its seller guidelines say that sellers should submit photos of a product's UKCA or CE markings, which would show a product meets legal requirements. So I thought I wasn't going to manage to do it. But when I came to actually list our illegal heater, you didn't have to. I mean, you could submit photos of a UKC A or C marking, but it was entirely optional. So I just didn't, because I didn't have any, because our heater was unbranded and didn't have any. And I listed it in about 3 minutes.
I think there'll be a lot of people who aren't TikTokers, they're not on the platform, and they go, hang on, but what's going on here? This is a social media platform, it's supposed to be videos, it's supposed to be people dancing, and then people are selling stuff on there. Can you briefly describe what TikTok Shop is and why it exists? What is this phenomenon?
Yeah, so I'd say TikTok is the first social media platform to really kind of, as you say, integrate shopping successfully into the platform. So they have a shop where you can just browse like you would on another online shop, but also their users can easily sell products. And actually on TikTok, if you have over 1,000 followers, you can become what's called a creator. And that means that you can connect with brands via a platform and sell their products for them. I mean, 1,000 users is not very many. So there's thousands of, if not tens of thousands or millions of creators on TikTok, all promoting products. They do a video about the product, and then you watch that video, and it's very easy to just kind of click on that video and then click through and buy the product.
What would we have done if someone had bought the heater?
We deliberately listed it at a very high price so that nobody would buy it. We would have obviously refunded them their money and not sent them a dangerous heater.
And what about eBay? Because was it that they recommended prices to you or something when you were listing this heater?
Yes, that's right. So when you list a product on eBay, it will automatically suggest a price based on how much similar items have sold for. When I listed my heater, it came up with some basically identical looking heaters, and it told me what they had sold for, and it suggested a price based on that. So that suggests to me that its algorithms should be able to spot a product identical to one that's been recalled, because they can spot a product that's identical to one that's been sold.
Yeah.
So it kind of surprised me that eBay's algorithms seem to be more geared towards selling than kind of preventing unsafe products from being sold.
Because presumably we don't know this for sure, but if it had similar, identical looking heaters on the site, presumably they would have been dangerous as well if it's the same heater.
Well, I mean, we don't know for sure, obviously, but yeah, I would probably bet money on that. If we bought some of those heaters, we'd find that some of them were also unsafe. And yeah, I had a look on eBay, and I saw at least a dozen identical looking heaters for sale. I mean, having said that, these are the unbranded heater that we've repeatedly found to be unsafe. Now, there are branded versions of this heater that we have tested, such as a Russell Hobbs one, and that was safe. Yeah. So, there are safe ones on the market, but it's the unbranded ones you need to be really cautious of. And yeah, as I said, I found plenty of them for sale on eBay.
This is kind of one of the tricky parts of that whack-a-mole, as you're saying, is that you can have a heater which is unbranded or even branded but with some kind of bogus company where, it's marketed as an alpha heater or something, but then another person will advertise it as a beta heater, and it's clear to anyone who's looking at it, and when you get it in the lab, that this is the same heater, presumably coming out of the same factory or the same mould. But even with that as a difficulty in the whack-a-mole, it seems that the same seller can just relist the same product and say, to all intents and purposes, this is the same product, and get away with it.
Yeah, as I said, I was very surprised by that. There seemed to be no... So I had listed a product that was dangerous. It had been reported to them. They'd taken it down. They'd emailed me as the seller to tell me that it had been taken down because it violated their policies and it was a recalled heater. And yet my seller account wasn't shut down. There was no extra checks put on my seller account. There was no kind of penalty as a seller for doing that. I was free to just list exactly the same dangerous product a week later.
Let's talk about Amazon, because when you listed on Amazon, it seemed like there were more hoops to jump through, but maybe they weren't quite as strict as it first seemed.
That's right. So initially, I thought I wasn't going to manage to list the product on Amazon. They seem to have tighter controls in place. So, for example, when you list a product, sellers have to have a product ID. So something like an EAM barcode or a GTIN barcode. And we didn't have one of these because our heater was an unbranded, unsafe product. But strangely, Amazon automatically granted me an exemption, even though I hadn't requested one. So I did manage to list it without any difficulty, really. But then shortly after it was listed, Amazon requested documentation that would prove our product met safety standards. Again, I didn't have this because it's an illegal, unsafe heater. But Amazon gives you 2 months to submit the documentation. And in the meantime, you can just carry on selling your product. So for me, it wasn't an issue. So our listing stayed up. But as I said, Amazon, to give them some credit, was the only platform that identified our heater as a recalled product and removed it from sale before we reported it to them. It just took them 2 weeks to do that.
And does this go against what these platforms say? I mean, do any of them say that they will essentially blacklist sellers who do this kind of behaviour?
As far as I know, they don't. It would be a very easy thing for them to do. You know, if you've got a seller that's a rogue seller that's selling dangerous products, why not blacklist them?
Which is so funny because I always kind of came into this investigation, reading about the investigation, thinking, oh, well, you know, of course they would block you as a seller, but what an easy thing to get around, that you just create another profile and you just carry on. But they've made it even easier than that you don't have to go through the hoop of making another fake profile. You just use the same one again.
Honestly, the audacity of it, I can't actually believe it because, as you say, we've uncovered this kind of thing again and again at Which. But reading this specific investigation, I just thought, for goodness sake, how can it be this easy to list a dangerous product? Like, why does nothing happen to stop this from occurring? I mean, what did the platforms have to say when you told them what you've been doing?
So the platforms said similar things, to be honest, that they've said before when we've exposed dangerous products being sold on their platforms. So eBay told us that consumer safety is one of their top priorities and that it has implemented algorithms to prevent the sale of unsafe products. Amazon said safety is a top priority at Amazon.
That's coincidence.
And that it requires all products to comply with applicable laws and regulations. It said of our investigation that although this was a fake product listed with the intention to evade our controls, it was detected and removed by our checks, and no customers purchased the product. Etsy told us that keeping its users safe is paramount, and Etsy prohibits the sale of dangerous items on their marketplace, including items that have been recalled by governments or manufacturers. And then TikTok, after we formally reported the product to them, they confirmed that it had been removed for violating its policies on electricals and electronics. It pointed out that no purchases were made and that it uses a combination of technology and manual moderation to enforce its policies and is constantly looking for ways to improve its enforcement strategies.
I mean, there just seems to be a gaping ravine then between what these companies say that they do and what actually happens in reality. So where is this going to end?
So actually, at the moment, there's a double standard. High street retailers and regular online retailers are legally responsible for the products sold through their platforms. But online marketplaces, like the ones we looked at, aren't responsible. However, after years of our investigations where we've called for new product safety laws, we're feeling optimistic because when the new government came in, it announced a product regulation and metrology bill that could finally place a new legal duty on online marketplaces to prevent the sale of unsafe products. Obviously, our latest investigation shows why this new bill is so crucial, and we believe that it could become law as early as next spring.
Wow. I mean, this is something we've been fighting for. I feel like I've been sticking it on the end of social videos where we've revealed a dangerous product, but we just say, here's a nice solution, would be the government step in and hand some of this accountability over to the online marketplaces. And it's happening seemingly quite quickly.
It is. I mean, we don't know the detail of the bill yet, but we really hope that it will give greater legal responsibilities to these online marketplaces. Because as you say, our investigations have shown time and again why that's so necessary. And consumers are being harmed by buying unsafe products.
Because at the moment, if I set up a corner shop and I'm selling dodgy, dangerous products, then pretty quickly the law's going to come down on me. But when we find one of these dangerous products, the sellers are fairly anonymous and small time in this, aren't they? You know, the people who at the moment have that legal responsibility, who are using the platforms, people other than us when we're becoming fake sellers, they're small fry and you really wouldn't be able to get kind of any compensation, any real recompense if something did go wrong with a product, would you?
Yeah, I mean, that's the problem, that often these products that we find to be unsafe, they're unbranded. Sometimes the sellers don't exist outside of the platform, that it's just a seller name that might exist on one platform. And if you try Googling it, you won't find anything. We don't know who the manufacturer is. They might be based abroad. It's very, very hard. If you do buy one of these products and something awful happens, it's very, very hard to get redress.
I mean, it's a little bit like you go to a car boot sale, you buy something that is dangerous, you turn up the next week and that seller's not at the car boot sale. And in a way, what we're saying is the person who set up the car boot sale, who's making the money off the car boot sale, is responsible. Except it's not a car boot sale, it's a billion, trillion-dollar company who is ultimately making money off dangerous products. I feel like there's a certain amount of talk that comes from these companies that they just go, there's people who are using this platform that we've created out of the goodness of our hearts. No, these are big tech companies making money off these products.
That's right. I mean, they obviously take a cut of every sale. And that's why what we've seen actually is more and more regular retailers turning into online marketplaces, because it's an easy way for them to massively increase the number of products they sell at minimal overheads and take commission.
Have you got any examples of those?
Yeah, so Tesco, for example, became an online marketplace back in June. So Tesco, when it first launched as an online marketplace, if you go on the Tesco website and you look for products, you'll find obviously groceries, and you'll find the products that Tesco itself sells, but you'll also find lots of products sold by third-party sellers, its marketplace sellers. And when it launched itself as an online marketplace back in June, I think it had 10,000 products by these third-party sellers. Very quickly, within a couple of months, that had doubled to 20,000 products. Other retailers that have done it, B&Q is an online marketplace. It now sells a vast number of products by third-party sellers. So Tesco, to its credit, makes it quite relatively clear when you're on there that you're buying from a third-party seller. But the problem with the B&Q website is it's not so obvious. So you could buy a product not knowing whether you're buying it from B&Q or whether you're buying it from a third-party seller. The biggest issue is obviously that we have found dangerous products. And we did buy a heater from B&Q earlier this year that proved to be dangerous.
I feel like these slipped under the radar a little bit, the more recent ones you mentioned. And then, talking about B&Q, where you've got sort of B&Q, and then you've got third-party seller, B&Q online marketplace. I guess it's sort of similar with Amazon, isn't it? Because you have Amazon and then you have Amazon Marketplace. And I think a lot of people don't realise that these are separate and that, they're completely different in the way that you buy. I mean, what would your advice be now, until next spring at least, when the bill comes in, for shopping safely online?
So I think especially when you're buying electronic products, it's best to steer clear of brands that you haven't heard of and unbranded products, because it's often unbranded products that fail our safety tests. We would recommend buying your electronics from a reputable brand or retailer. And, I think it's worth paying a bit more for peace of mind when it comes to electrical products. Look out for counterfeits and fakes. If a deal seems too good to be true, it probably is too good to be true. And bear in mind that the CE mark or the UKCA mark, which should demonstrate that product meets legal requirements, are quite easy to fake. And then if you are planning to buy a product from a seller you've never heard of, check them out. So read reviews of their other products. If it's a business, read feedback on sites like Trustpilot to see if other customers have had any issues. If a product has had a lot of 5-star reviews, I'd be a bit cautious, because our previous investigations have found that, there are lots and lots of fake reviews on some of these websites. So unfortunately, unscrupulous sellers, they'll buy fake reviews and they'll use them to bolster their ratings. So, we'd say ignore the 5-star ratings, read the 2, 3 and 4-star ones where you're more likely to get honest opinions.
Thank you so much, Claire. Keep on fighting the good fight.
Thanks.
Well, you can read more about the report on the Which website, and you can actually watch Harry's brilliant video on our Instagram and TikTok channels, where he actually visited TikTok HQ dressed as a human billboard. It will make sense when you watch it. All those links will be in the episode description.
And also there you'll find the full responses from the companies involved.
In response to our investigation, B&Q told us, "We take the safety and legal compliance of products sold by B&Q or by third-party sellers very seriously. Multiple products like those tested by Which were removed from sale. A seller providing proof of compliance had its products subsequently relisted. the product tested by Which has been delisted and customers have been offered refunds.
If you enjoyed this episode of the podcast and think Clare's investigation was as brilliant as we thought it was, then why not snap up a Which subscription right now for a whopping 50% off the usual price?
That is an offer exclusive to podcast listeners and applies to our magazine, digital, or the full Which subscription, the whole shebang.
If you choose the digital or full access tier, not only will you get access to all of our product reviews, the Which app, personalised buying advice and more, but you'll also be helping us do these types of investigations to help make it safer and ultimately fairer when you're shopping online.
So head to which.co.uk/podcast offer. That's which.co.uk/podcast offer for 50% off a Which subscription.
Thanks for listening to Get Answers. Before you go, don't forget to hit subscribe. And if you haven't already done so, you can leave us a review. And also, we quite like hearing from you. So you can send us an email at podcasts@which.co.uk if you have any questions, if you have any feedback or any suggestions for what we can cover in the future.
This episode was presented by me, Harry Kind, and Grace Farrell, produced by James Rowe and Rob Lilly-Jones, and edited by Eric Breer. And thanks again to Clare for joining us. We'll be back soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Life can get hectic when you start a family, but Which can help you make confident decisions from improving your home to financial planning. We'll make sure you're prepared. Whether you're looking to reduce your household bills, seeking advice around your child's health, or want to find our best buys for your new home, Which has got you covered. Use our expert advice to make the right choices for you and your growing family by visiting which.co.uk/growing family. That's where you'll find everything you need to make confident decisions and have peace of mind that all the advice you're getting is 100% independent. So to find out more, just head to which.co.uk/growing family.